Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Collette McEntee, and I am the project coordinator of the Feminist Communities for Climate Justice project. I do see there's a raised hand there. If whoever is the raised hand, we will be using the question and answer function for all questions and answers, but also if there's something you need to raise, maybe input it into there and we'll see it as the co-hosts and the panelists on the call. So yeah, my name is Collette McEntee and I'm the coordinator of the Feminist Communities for Climate Justice project, and it's a joint project between the National Women's Council and Community Work Ireland, who are both national organisations representative of women and feminist organisations, community workers, community development organisations and groups. And it's on both organisations are on an all-island basis. The project itself is funded under Strand 2 of the Department of Environment, Climate and Communications Community Climate Action Programme. And as there's more people on the call just now, I would like to formally welcome you to the launch of some groundbreaking research that we have developed alongside the researchers on the call today, and that is highlighting the connections between care and climate, and why the upcoming referenda on family and care taking place on Friday the 8th of March are important for climate and climate activists. Care is key to how women experience life and how they experience the climate crisis. And investing in and valuing care, paid and unpaid, will help us meet our climate goals while addressing inequality. A yes in the upcoming referenda, where care could be meaningfully included in the Constitution, is an opportunity that we cannot afford to miss. So just to say at this point that we are recording the full session up until Q&A, and please use the questions and answer box throughout the full webinar and we'll address those at the end. And we also will be sharing a screen, and on that you'll see a QR code which I encourage you to scan, and that'll take you to the mailing list for our project mailing. So I'm just going to share my screen. And from the beginning. So if you do have the time, just scan the QR code. We'll also send a direct link to the mailing list for you to sign up. And then moving into the running order of today. So my colleague Vanessa Conroy will introduce the campaign and all of its elements just now. And she'll also touch on climate justice and the connections with care briefly. And then we will hear from Dr Catherine Forde of the research team and of the Department of Applied Social Studies at University College Cork, who carried out the project's baseline research of Irish climate policy and its impact on women and girls, along with other marginalised communities in Ireland. For this event, and in the context of the upcoming referenda, we have published the care chapter of the research to highlight care work's importance in our just transition as inherently low carbon and green work. We will have then contributions from Fiona Weldon, who is the Capacity Development Officer at Independent Living Movement Ireland, who's going to give us a contribution on how the care referendum is going to impact and benefit people, disabled people. And then we'll have contribution from Rachel Coyle, who is the Head of Campaigns and Mobilisation at the National Women's Council, who will come in on the upcoming referenda. And we are advocating for a yes to show that we are caring society and that we recognise the importance of care in all of our lives while recognising the diversity of families also. So just a reminder, pop in your Q&A questions into the Q&A box throughout the whole event, and I'll hand you over now to my colleague Vanessa. So just bear with me.
Hi everyone, so my name is Vanessa and I will be introducing the Feminist Communities for Climate Justice project, which has various elements. It will amplify, reflect and respond to the voices of women and marginalised communities most impacted by the climate crisis. Advocate with women and marginalised communities as active, we're having slide issues. Sorry, on climate justice reflecting feminist and gendered community work values. It will mobilise the collective efforts of grassroots organisations across Ireland through the establishment of the Communities for Climate Justice National Network. And we will also be training community workers and communities to respond to climate impacts, including an ongoing QQI Level 7 course, Community Work in a Changing Ireland, Feminist Climate Justice, developed and delivered in partnership with Maynooth University's Department of Applied Social Studies, and the creation of toolkits that will be available to all community and youth workers. So why a feminist and community work approach? A feminist and community work approach asks us to address and tackle the root causes of inequality and climate justice, demanding system change, not climate change. This approach also cares. It champions caring work, paid and unpaid, and calls for it to be appropriately valued and recognised as green work, which is the focus of our webinar today. It involves transforming consultation into meaningful, non-tokenistic participation in decision-making. It focuses on the issue of women's representation in decision-making, as well as other marginalised groups. Those most impacted by the climate crisis need to be at the centre of decision-making spaces. It champions a collective focus. We need to fight for the many and not the few. And it also recognises that better public services benefit people and the planet. So, key to this project is the concept of climate justice. And climate justice is pretty much the intersection of social justice and the climate crisis. It means that while reducing carbon emissions, we are also reducing social inequalities rather than deepening them, creating a fairer and more just world in the process. The climate crisis is an everything crisis, and climate justice recognises that the effects of climate breakdown are not felt equally. Those that cause the least of the climate crisis are the most affected with the least resources to respond. And women are more likely to be hardest hit by the impact of the climate emergency in Ireland and globally. They are socioeconomically disadvantaged compared to men, and care work is key to how women experience and are impacted by the climate crisis. Their voices must be central, and their input is essential in ensuring that climate action does not worsen existing gender inequality. Care work, which is the centre of our webinar today, is essential and low carbon work, but is undervalued, underpaid, and taken for granted, and it is still largely carried out by women. But caring jobs like teaching, community work, and healthcare are actually 26 times greener than manufacturing jobs, but they're seldom part of the green jobs discourse. For example, education is often touted as crucial for our green transition, but right now our teachers are being priced out of their homes and their jobs. Care work must be recognised as the essential green work that it is. Better pay, better hours, and better working conditions for women to fully participate in economic, political, and social life. Our baseline research project was completed before the Climate Action Plan 2024 was published. Here we go. Okay, so where was I? Our baseline research report was completed before Climate Action Plan 2024 was published, but care is still omitted in the new Climate Action Plan. The word care only appears twice in Climate Action Plan 2024, and neither appearance meaningfully discusses care and caring work in relation to the climate crisis or Ireland's climate strategy. Care work is also not mentioned as a green job within the Just Transition strategy. Care work, the EPA's recently published Climate Change Assessment of Ireland has noted that Irish climate policy needs to prioritise well-being and equity and names the valuing of care as key in achieving this, showing that thankfully there is appetite for the meaningful inclusion of care within our climate policy. And I'll now hand you back to Collette, who will introduce the first of our guest speakers today.
Hi, everyone. And sorry about the technical glitch. It wouldn't be a webinar if that didn't happen. Okay, so as I was saying, as part of the Feminist Communities for Climate Justice project, we worked with the wonderful team of researchers at the Department of Applied Social Studies at University College Cork. And Dr. Fiona Dukelow, Dr. Catherine Forde and Edith Busteed is on our call just now. And we're going to have Dr. Catherine Forde inputting on the findings that they have from that care report. The groundbreaking full report will be launched on the 11th of April in Cork. But today we are launching the care section of the baseline to open and aid the conversation and discussion on the links between the climate crisis, care, and the upcoming referenda. So I'm going to hand you over to Dr. Catherine Forde and hope that we don't have too many technical glitches beyond this. I'm going to share the screen, Catherine, as I do have your slides. So just bear with me one moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you, Collette. And it's nice to speak to everyone. I have a little cold today, so I do hope that I don't cough in the middle of this. Hopefully not. I'm going to explore the connection between care and climate, as Vanessa was saying. But firstly, I'd like to refer back to Vanessa's point about the gendered nature of care. Recent census figures from Ireland bear this out. For example, a significant majority of unpaid carers in Ireland are women, 61%, as opposed to 39% who are men. Female carers spend more time caring than their male counterparts. And the proportion of unpaid carers in Ireland grew by 2% between 2016 and 2022 in this country. Next slide, thank you. I might just elaborate on the figures by mentioning a recent report, a State of the World's Fathers report from 2023, which found that women in Ireland spend an average of 9.1 hours per week more on housework than men, and housework includes care work in that context. The report argues that while more men internationally want to engage in and with caring roles, the inequalities in the labour market, in the economy, in politics, and more generally in the public sphere lead to inequalities in the home in terms of caring and housework. So, for example, higher male salaries in the economy may lead to sacrificing the woman's job in the context of a couple in favour of her engaging in unpaid care work. Just looking at this slide on the iceberg economy, as I've been saying, the economy is significant to this discussion, and we can use the environmental analogy of the iceberg to represent the economy. The visible economy at the top of the iceberg includes wage labour, production for market and capitalist enterprises, and the invisible economy beneath is made up of a whole assemblage of roles, including community development work, caring roles, friendship, cooperation, not-for-profit organisations and work, volunteering, and care for and of the environment. The invisible economy is larger than the visible, but is not valued as highly as the visible economy. However, it underpins the visible economy, which could not realistically function without care, caring attitudes, caring roles, care work, or environmental resources that we draw from the environment. Next slide, please. Ecofeminism is concerned with the fundamental importance of and connections between care for people and care for the planet. Both tend to be taken for granted. Both are regarded as infinite and freely available. and both have similar characteristics, including their invisibility, being undervalued, and being exploited. These kinds of inequalities and exploitation can lead to breaches of planetary boundaries, and we know that we are in breach of planetary boundaries, thereby threatening the flourishing and continuation of all life on Earth. Next slide, please. Thank you. Conversely, a focus on care services, employment, would improve employment and gender equality and help to meet, help to have triple effects, improvement of employment, improvement of gender equality, and assisting the meeting of climate change targets. So a triple effect. Because care and care work, as Vanessa said, are low carbon activities and therefore considerably less polluting per job than other roles, such as construction and farming. So she also mentioned community development work as an example of low carbon activity. Care work, therefore, is green work and should receive the same attention and recognition as other forms of green work, like recycling, retrofitting, and green energy, amongst others. Next slide, thank you. If we look at the policy context to care in this country, we can say that despite the connections between care and climate, they exist in silos in Irish policy making. Our National Carers Strategy, which is now nearly 12 years old, does not make links between care and climate change, while our new Climate Action Plan of 2023 does not connect care and survival or consider care work as green work in the same, in areas, in relevant areas such as just transition and important areas such as just transition. Next slide, thank you. Feminist groups such as the Women's Budget Group in the UK seek recognition of care work as green work through a number of measures. Major investment in the provision of quality jobs in all kinds of care, time policies with progressive objectives like reducing working time and redistributing care work fairly, and income support policies that support care work. Examples of these may include a universal social income. Next slide, thank you. I'm sorry, Zoom is going slightly bananas for me here. To develop a care economy, sorry, last slide. This is just one slide back, please. Okay, thank you. To develop a care economy, we need strategies that make the connection between care and climate, which can be achieved through a political and public imaginary or imagination that sees care and climate as intersecting, a narrative or discourse shift that promotes values including equity, intersectionality, and inclusivity, and positive frames of reference that underline care work as climate work. And the importance of positive frames of reference is undeniable. Final slide, please. Thank you. I might just mention before I finish, we may say that this shift in terms of the political and public imaginary and in terms of practice is not impossible. We've already seen the success of healthy cities and counties in Ireland as an example of movement towards work, including community development work, that values engagement with the environment and healthy ways of living and being. We can take an example from the city of Barcelona in Spain, which practices intersectional climate justice through a range of measures. These include local care centres around the city that serve as hubs to support carers through, for example, offering meeting spaces. Shared parenting and municipal childcare opportunities, which operate in tandem with cycling and walking networks informed by caring activities such as everyday journeys taken by carers or those for whom they care. And a carer's card, which is like a city card that offers a range of supports to carers and those being cared for. For example, supports like carers information, psychological supports, facilities, access to facilities such as parks and recreational areas and spaces, health advice and assistance, etc. So there's much that can be done to incorporate care into our public and political imaginary. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Catherine Forde. And if anybody has any questions, please do, as a reminder, pop them into the Q&A box on the call. We also have the care section of the baseline research available on the Women's Council and Community Work Ireland websites, and we will input a link to that near the end of the webinar and also in the follow-up information and communication. I'm hoping that you all can hear me okay and that you can see me all right. I'm going to be handing us over to Fiona Weldon, and Fiona is the Capacity Development Officer at the Independent Living Movement Ireland, and she is going to be contributing about this topic from a disability perspective. Just as a bit of background, ILMI was established as the first Irish Centre for Independent Living in 1992 by and for disabled people, with the main aim that disabled people achieved independent living, choice and control over their lives, and full participation in society as equal citizens. So at this point, I'm going to hand over to you, Fiona, and I'm going to turn my camera off. No more screen sharing at this point. Thank you.
Thanks, Collette, for that. So as Collette said, my name is Fiona, and I'm a disabled woman. And this fundamental paradigm shift underpins my contribution today, and indeed my life. And before I start, I'd like to kind of share the reality is that most disabled people acquire their impairments, and almost everyone will need some level of human support over the life course. It's just part of the human condition. So we are all temporary non-disabled people, and all of us are aging. So I ask you today, do you want a support care system that does not want to segregate, that frees families, that has outcomes focused, that enables people to thrive in their own homes, regardless of age and impairment? Disabled people do experience discrimination at multiple levels, and this is caused by the many barriers that has created by a society that only takes into account the needs of non-disabled people. Being a disabled mum can be cumbersome. My GP as a mum was brilliant, and I met a wonderful social worker, and I discovered personal assistance. My whole life changed. In my early 20s, I learned that disability and impairment were two separate beasts. Disability was and still continues to be created by social organizations, which take little or no account of people who have impairments. For me and many others, disability only kicks in when a barrier gets in our way. So if I can't get into a building, or I can't use the loo because the bathroom or toilet is not accessible enough, whose fault is it? I didn't build the steps nor the toilets, but if it was part of the procreation of these supports or these facilities, I bet you things would be different. Intersectionality, we mentioned earlier on with our other guest speaker, and it's really important. And our intersectionality as disabled people can impact us, can have a serious impact on us, and we can experience multiple oppression. The disability movement is not a single impairment movement, is a cross-impairment intersection movement, and there is power behind this. We cannot talk about climate change or our sustainable goals without looking at our current sustainable housing situation which is non-existent. We can't talk about our transport infrastructure that doesn't work for most of us. And electric cars and the need to buy electric cars and affordable electric cars. It's problematic for all of us. And then we can go to fossil fuels and the need for us to keep warm and afford to light our fires at night. And this obviously is not eco-friendly heating, but we must do it to keep warm. And then I could talk about the educational system and the plastic straw drinking issue, and this is eco-ableism, changing things without consultation. The plastic straw was a liberation for many disabled people. Our key message today is that disabled people are not outside the discourse of climate, but central to it. Likewise with the discourse of care. Care is not in terms of inter-family care, but rather is in terms of the industry of care provision, which leads to further segregation, disallowing this amount of systematic barriers that we experience every single day. Many of us do not have choice. Most of us don't have the good support or the right support. Many of us feel that we are a burden on our families, and by default we become compliant to the very controlling and disempowering system that kicks in, that tricks us into believing that this is just the way it is. But the power is in the collectives. Activists coming together are the solution, demanding what we need and want. We are the experts and we are the solution people. Disability is a policy, it's a political issue. and is firmly rooted in our political system, a system that perpetuates inequality. As Collette mentioned, I work for ILMI, Independent Movement Ireland. We are a national campaigning disabled people organisation that promotes the philosophy of independent living, and we seek to build an inclusive society. Deep continuous listening is very important to us. We want to know the lived experience of disabled people. Ableism is also an issue, and this is by assuming that the only way to live your life is as a non-disabled person. Our society prioritizes the need of non-disabled people over disabled people, and the belief that non-disabled are more valuable to society. This dominant view continues to influence policy that controls our lives. Disabled people can internalize ableism, and not of us can discriminate against ourselves and other disabled people by holding the view that disability is a bad thing and something to be ashamed of. And this only perpetuates the current system that limits ambition. One of them, independent living is a philosophy. It's a belief, and it's a particular way of living a life. Independent living is about having choice, having control, making decisions, taking risks, and living self-determined lives. Choosing where you live, who you live with, and what you do during the day are very important components. One of the misconceptions of independent living is the need to be living on your own. And that we need to be as independent as we can. So not needing human support is a strength. Fitting into the norm is the goal. None of us are independent, but we live in a society that puts a value on the idea that needing support is a sign of weakness. So there is an overemphasis on doing things by yourself, for yourself. We have semi-independent living services. There is no such thing. All of us are dependent on others. We are all gloriously independent. Needing human support is part of the human condition. As babies, children, sisters, brothers, wives, husbands, and our local community, we are all dependent on each other. Central to the UNCRPE is social model thinking and independent living. And from an ILMI perspective, it is vital that there is a clear and full understanding of the social model and independent living and how it can inform future decisions on policy development and implementation on improving disabled people's lives. For many disabled people, having a personal assistant is crucial. A PA is an individual that has contracted or chosen by a disabled person to provide them with the support they need in different aspects of daily living. Personal support, domestic tasks, assisting at school, university, in the workplace, and when not in the bar. We strongly believe that this type of support service can be an impetus in shifting the power relations while supporting lots of groups of people to thrive. In terms of the referendum, ILMI have spent a lot of time generation has shared analysis of what is meant by care. From an ILMI perspective, parents use the emotional and practical support that we need at different times of our lives to participate and thrive. Care always acknowledges that the well-being of all society is closely linked to the well-being of each part of that community. Care is about receipt as well as provision, and it is crucial that we both parties both parties to that caring relationship are recommended. But sadly, we know that this is not the case. Care is a loaded term for many of us, and there is a whole industry that is in the business of keeping disabled people and children outside the rhythms and normal of the ordinary rhythms of daily living. This only perpetuates specialized supports, which is not outcome related. It is oh my God, and what's more, there's no quality of life outcomes, and this, as we call it, is service land. Disabled children and their families. It's all about diagnosis, what's wrong with their child and what life is going to be like. Then it's about navigating the therapy web, fighting for the required support, which is non-existent. Many families are also forced to give up work and live very restricted lives, give up careers and forced to send their loved ones to respite. Many feel guilty and desperate, but they need the break. ILMI are voting yes, but we have reservations. We are hesitant in using the term care as is currently understood by government and our current support system. Care assumes that we need to be looked after, and as this shows how prevalent the medical model is still in Ireland. Jenny Morris, a leading academic and a disabled feminist, explains that this understanding of care takes away our autonomy and the assumption that the caring industry is very much in control, and the non-disabled professionals providing this care is in charge. Under this regime, many of us are relying on families, which strips us from being daughters, sons, and mothers, fathers, and so on. For disabled people who have to rely on a family member, their choice and control is extremely limited. It also impacts on their relationship with their families. A system needs to be developed that empowers disabled people, older people, families, and anyone that needs support to be included in their community, using the philosophy of independent living to inform both policy and practice. Core to this is personal assistance, value and resource the work done by paid and unpaid, by family, non-paid and paid, and invest in public childcare that is quality and affordable. While we work towards full participation, we are sadly too aware that disabled people who continue to have their rights as human beings denied are essentially incarcerated in segregated and specialized environments. Institutions are often established on the principles of looking after us, and this is dehumanizing and it's prone to abuse. I'm nearly finished, Collette. Okay, disabled people fear that where parents of disabled children lobby for residential institutions, it will increase demand, and this demand will inevitably lead to the warehousing of disabled people. ILMI recognizes that family members carry out support for their disabled partners, siblings, and children, including the grown-up children, but this limits freedom and it limits family carers and it alters the family dynamics. A full-time job is often carried out under the term care without real financial reward. ILMI recognizes that many family members are under the term of care are for them positive terms, and they should be valued for this role within society, but not at the expense of disabled people to live barrier-free lives. Currently, many parents are forced into staying at home and are given a state pension that is intended to reward them for their contribution and provide the additional support their son or daughter needs. It seems that the premise is going to stay in our institution as our government is continuing to strive for care in the family. Neither disabled people or their families want this, so they don't. Personal assistance is the real option where people can have real choice and real control over their lives. This calls for a typical mind shift in providing a robust care infrastructure that understands the philosophy of independent living and the social model of disability. Solidarity and support for those that need support is fundamental to ILMI. Our allies can and are joining our team. We believe that in campaigning for investment in support that meets the needs of disabled people to be part of the community, the needs of disabled people, regardless of impairment, and the needs of family and their sons or daughter will and should be met. Independent living should be about every disabled people having what they need to live self-determined and full lives. As a DPO, we are supporting the SES campaign in removing outmoded and outthinking practices in relation to all women. And whilst the Article 42.3 is not as strong as we hoped, we will use every opportunity as today to say successful adoption opens a pathway to broaden the conversation and investing in support in the form of personal assistance. Appropriate support will liberate not only disabled people, but liberate families at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fiona. Yeah, you can hear me okay? Thank you so much for giving the perspective of yourself and disabled people in the context of the climate crisis and care and the upcoming referenda. And also one of the comments you said was just, disabled people are central to the discourse on climate and care. But the power is also in the collective, in activism, in activists coming together, demanding what we need and want. And this is a lot of what this is about. And it leads us perfectly into our next part, which is about the upcoming referendum, which Rachel Coyle, the head of campaigns and mobilisation at the National Women's Council, is going to contribute on. So I'm going to hand over to yourself, Rachel, if you want to come in. And also just sorry to encourage some people have their hands up. If you actually input whatever you have to say into the questions and answer box, please, that'd be great, and we'll address them after. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Collette, and thanks everybody for the opportunity to come and address the webinar today. I think it's safe to say that climate and care aren't always easily identifiable as linked, but when you look at this really important research you hear from our speakers today, I think it's really evident that anyone who's a climate justice activist need to see themselves also as a care activist. I really want to talk just about the National Women's Council's campaign for a yes vote for the 2 referendums that are taking place on the 8th of March. These referendums are long overdue, and it's been a long road to get here, 87 years. In fact, Bunreacht na hÉireann, our constitution, it's a statement of our values as a country. It sets out societal expectations that reflect on all of us. But just as our country reflects our constitution needs to reflect all of its people. So on the 8th of March, we're going to be asked to vote in 2 really important referendums. So one on valuing care and one on recognizing all families equally. Really quickly, just in terms of the family referendum, this one is about expanding the constitutional definition of the family beyond the marital status of the family, okay? So it's by defining the family as whether founded on marriage or other durable relationships. So that means this, finally, we're going to recognize families like lone parent families, families where parents are cohabiting but not married, families where grandparents or another relative is taking care of children. We know that these families have been left in legal limbo and have experienced stigma and isolation over the years. 40% of children, over 40% in fact, of children born in Ireland last year were born into unmarried families. Our constitution needs to cherish these children, needs to protect all these children equally, and these families are not less than those founded on marriage. So it's about expanding the definition. It's not taking any rights away. So as I say, crucially, it's about recognizing and protecting those families and the children who's part of them. But in terms of the care referendum, this one's particularly exciting because it's about finally removing Article 41.2, which is commonly referred to as the Women in the Home article, and to replace it with a more gender-neutral article, which recognizes the value of care within families. So, as I say, it's taken out outdated and sexist language that kind of limits women's life to that within the home. We know that women actually protested the language going in 1937. And this was all done at a time when women's rights were under attack from conservative and religious forces in this state. So things like the jury bar, the marriage bar, they were copper fastened by the wording in our foundational document in Article 41.2. And we know that it just never reflected the reality of women's lives or our contribution to so many areas of society and community. It never resulted in the state valuing unpaid care work done by women in their homes. And it saw no role for men in contributing to care. It resulted in the state ignoring this work, taking us for granted and trying to make us invisible. But I think we can argue that that was a total failure because Irish women have been fighting back for 87 years. A woman's place is wherever she wants it to be, and it's about time to just consign Article 41.2 to the history bin. And there's no doubt women do more caring work than men. On average, one of the previous speaker, the researcher, outlined just how much work women do. On average, women spend double the amount of time of men on caring and more than twice as much time on housework. And that gender gap exists even when the men and women living in the house do the same amount of paid work. So for us, we think the upcoming campaign, it's an opportunity to recognize the contribution of unpaid labor in the home, to speak to the many struggles and the hoops that carers have to navigate in accessing support, to talk about the many supports that are lacking for parents, caregivers, and as Fiona rightly outlined, those who need supports and personal assistance. We know men in increasing numbers are providing care as well. Men have strong, caring relationships with children, parents, and other people around them, and this should be welcomed and encouraged and valued. Men should play an equal role in looking after the family and home life. That, you know, it's okay for men to stay at home and care for their children, that it's acceptable to ask for flexibility for you know, helping an aging parent. So for us, we believe a yes vote is going to send a clear message to government that Irish people want to see change to recognize that we're a caring society and that we actually need to support that care. So the referendum, it's a key point in time to affect change, but we know that it's the months and the years following it that are going to be just as critically important. In the National Women's Council, among many others, we're going to be calling through this campaign and beyond on all political parties, on the current government and future governments to commit to real change. Things like a public childcare system that provides universal, affordable, accessible early years education for every child, a universal social care and support system that provides rights to care and support and properly meets the needs of older and disabled people to make choices and live independent lives, a universal pension so everyone has dignity and income adequacy in older age, regardless of whether or not they've taken time during their working life to care for others or receive support themselves, and better paid and longer family leave entitlements, including leave that encourages a more gender equal division of care work within our homes. So these referendums are extremely important. We've only got 4 or 5 weeks now to talk to all voters, to hear women and men share their experiences and their support for change. We're really excited to have a national conversation about the importance of care in our society and being more inclusive of families and all their diversity. So for us, these referendums are just a first step towards real material change, but it's vitally important that we take that step. We're encouraged by the recent polls, but we're not being complacent. We're quite concerned that people don't immediately connect these issues to their own lives and passions. So I'm really delighted that the link between care and climate justice is being amplified in this way and in this setting. But we need your help because we know that every conversation until the 8th of March is going to make a difference. It can make a difference and every single vote will count. So we need every climate justice advocate to be an advocate for yes, yes on the 8th of March. And there's lots of ways that you can get involved in the campaign and keep in touch. You know, we'll be rolling out Canvas training and canvases right across the country. You know, please talk to your friends and your family, the people you work with and study with. Crucially, make sure you get out and vote on the 8th of March. But, you know, please get in touch with us after the webinar and see if there's ways that you can, you know, lift the campaign in your own area. We'd be delighted to support you with that. I'm just really conscious of time. I know this is over lunch, so I'm going to finish up there, Collette. But thanks very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Yeah, you're just right. I'm just going to pop some actions into the chat there of the webinar for people to follow up to speed up some of our time. We're going to address maybe a couple of questions, but we won't have time for all. But just to read out, and this would be for one of the researchers, so either Dr. Catherine or Fiona, or we'll have Edith either. The concept, so this comes in from Haley Robinson, and it's the concept of care centres is phenomenal. How was the infrastructure developed to aid this? Was it a grassroots or government funded project? So if that one of you could pick up on that, if you have an answer, or maybe it's something to follow up on.
And Colette, maybe I'll come in here first. Is that okay? I won't talk for long because I know we have time on our hands and I'm taking a lot of time today. But I'm sure we could talk about this for the next 2 days and not be, you know, fed up with the conversation. But like our current support system is built around the idea that we are that disabled people and other marginalized groups are seen as sick, as dependent, and there is a need for care to be cared for. And this is not the case. And our government has continuously not kind of like address this problem, and it continues to fund services that isn't meeting our needs, and it's not outcome related. So as long as we keep using these services that don't work, the government will still fund these services. So disabled people and other people that need support service need to start saying no and telling the powers that be what they want and how they need it and what form they need it in as well.
Thank you very much, Fiona. I'm just conscious of the time right now. I'll take one more, I'll squeeze it in, and then we'll get in our thank yous and end the webinar just a little over time. So we have another one in, and it's going to Rachel Coyle, and was the NWC a consultant on Article 41.2 or did case studies of other referendums regarding women's rights? For example, Rosa on Repeal the 8th. I'm assuming that means were they included during the consultation on this article? So I'll hand over to you.
Yeah, no, just very quickly, we made a very detailed submission to the Citizens Assembly. We know in 2018, it was sort of put that there would be a straight deletion on the article. And we actually advocated that no, there should be a Citizens Assembly to look at the value of care, because we know that a straight deletion wouldn't be a fair, I suppose, there wouldn't be that opportunity to have that national conversation about care, unpaid work in the home. So yeah, no, that detailed submission is available on our website.
Okay, thanks, Emil. And just to say to those that have dropped in questions, we'll try and maybe address some of those that were pointed out in the follow-up communication. I know not all of you can see them, but just for time, I would like to just say a thank you to you all for attending today and for withstanding some of the glitches, but c'est la vie. And we'd like to give a great thank you to the researchers, Dr Catherine Forde, Dr Fiona Dukelow and Edith Busteed for their wonderful work on this care section that will be available, or is available, apologies, on our website and the Community Work Ireland website. And also to our speakers, Fiona Weldon and Rachel Coyle, for their contributions, and also to the Irish Sign Language interpreters, Lisa and Sarah. We'll leave it at that. Let this be the start of a wonderful conversation, and let's vote yes, yes in the upcoming referendum. Slán agus Bennett, thank you very much.